Stay in your lane. Welcome to the Mind Your Own podcast with Erin Sorensen and Sausha Durkan, where we stick to sports, except when we're not.
Hello and welcome to another kind of not bonus episode, I don't know what to call this, of the Mind Your Own podcast. I'm Erin.
I'm Sausha.
The reason I have no idea how to intro this is because we technically didn't have a true episode this week. Not intentionally. I'll be honest with y'all, like, we are in the thick of Varsity yearbook. I am like, just my brain is mush. I was misspelling words to Sausha yesterday and I've been noticing. And when I kind of was like, hey, are you cool if we just maybe punt this week? Sasha's like, look, I'm in the thick of a lot of stuff as well.
Yeah. So
it was just kind of a let's regroup another day. And here we are.
Hello. Welcome.
This is going to be a pretty quick episode, though. This is just going to kind of get you through the next weekish, because we are going to be off this next upcoming week. I'm technically out of town. Sausha is technically off that day as well, although both of us will inevitably work, which is not how you set boundaries.
No, it's not. Nope, that's exactly the direct opposite of how you set boundaries.
So, I mean, just take it from us. Don't listen to any of our feedback on boundaries.
Yeah.
But Sausha, I do hope next week you do get at least a little break, because you do deserve it.
Well, my birthday's on Saturday, and so we get a day off for our birthday now. And I'm like, well, mine's on a weekend, so I'll just take that following Monday off. And then I was like, I'm going to make this tattoo appointment for Tuesday because I've been pushing it off. Might as well, whatever. So I did take that day off, but I will end up working. That's fine.
Wow. Happy birthday, by the way.
Closer to 40. So great.
I have come to find when I turned 30, I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm out of my 20s. Like, this is so I'm getting older, but I keep finding that every new decade is better than the last. And so I'm not wishing time away by any means, but it does give me some solace when I'm like, you know what? My 30s have been better than my 20s. And I don't mean that my 20s were bad. I'm just a better person in my 30s than I was in my 20s. I've learned a lot of lessons. I've grown a lot, where I'm like, imagine who I will be in my 40s then.
Right. I'm kind of like, I'm not wishing time away either, but at this point I'm like, all right, let's just be 40. 38 to 40 is a weird time. My husband's actually exactly a year older than me, almost to the day. He's going to be 39, and I'm like anxiously awaiting throwing him his 40th birthday party.
I love it, because I was telling somebody recently that I'm like, I view myself right now as a third of the way through my life. And the reason I say this is because somebody else was like, oh, we're halfway through our lives. I'm like, I hope I'm not halfway through my life. I mean, I can't, obviously I don't know, but I view it as I'm a third. And I'm like, that's a better way. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm middle-aged or anything at this point. Honestly, what even is middle-aged anymore? It's all just a frame of mind and frame of reference. But happy birthday. I'm excited for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Need you to start planning your birthday parties more conveniently for me, because the last two I have been out of town, and I'm starting to think that this is on purpose.
It's actually not. So I am we'll get into what we're going to talk about just a second, but I am very much the person in our relationship, my husband and I am the planner. I plan everything. I hate not having a plan. I don't like doing things last minute or really spur of the moment. But it's gotten to the point where, his birthday is literally the day before mine. So tomorrow, as of the recording of this podcast. And I was like, well, what do you want to do for your birthday? I asked him this on Tuesday. So it was lack of planning on my part. And I didn't really feel like doing anything this year, because I'm like, it's whatever. I'm going to be 38. It's nothing groundbreaking, but he wanted to have a little get together. So that's why it was last minute. And I apologize.
No, it's fine. I just will be sad. I just keep getting sad that like I just want to come hang out with Mario.
I know. Actually, his birthday's on Sunday. He will be 3.
What? It is just a big weekend in the Durkan household.
It is.
Well, because we aren't going to take too much of your time this week, the reason that we did want to hop on a quick episode, because there is some crossover. The thing that we always say about this podcast is, obviously, from our tagline and just from what we say in general, is that we stick to sports except when we don't. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I always say that everything we talk about is sports adjacent, because everything we do discuss is a sports topic. It's just not necessarily about the outcome of a game, mm-hmm. the outcome, like the results of anything. It's about the people. It's about the stuff that make the athletes in their worlds run. It's the things that affect them. It's what affects us. And I'll be honest with you, we have episodes that people get really, it can be contentious, and I'm okay with that, because I think that's how changes happens. But this isn't contentious. At least I hope it's not. But we did want to just have another quick chat about the Hale Varsity yearbook. Yeah. We talked about that last week. So if you haven't listened to our previous episode, please go check it out. It's about the stories that matter. And what we meant by that and what we shared is just that there are a lot of stories in this world about the athletes that have nothing to do with the outcome of a game. It has nothing to do with that. And so we talked about that and the different things that have made up some of the best stories that we have told, that we have read, you name it. So if you haven't checked that out, go check it out.
Yes.
But I also want to encourage you that go listen to any of the Hale Varsity Network podcasts in the next few days, because other people on our network are going to be talking about the yearbook and their stories as well. So you should go check that out, because if you have not subscribed to Hale Varsity, you can do so now. Just head to halevarsity.com/subscribe. You can even go to our social networks and find the link, because there's actually one that will save you $30 on a year's subscription. So I don't want to just keep spelling out, just go click on one of the links on literally any of our social channels. But we did unveil the cover, which this is what we didn't talk about in our most recent episode, because we weren't yet ready to unveil this. And the cover is Garrett Nelson, Nebraska outside linebacker, in-state player. He is super rad. He is somebody that came to Nebraska hair on fire. Everyone knew him as just this bigger than life personality. But what you don't know is all of the things that he's had to battle personally to get where he is. And he still doesn't feel he's anywhere where he wants to be as a player. And he's got big, big goals ahead, big dreams, but he's never, ever been anything other than who he is as a person, at least on the surface. And this yearbook story, which I wrote, tells that through the stories of 8 people who know him well. And then it also is Garrett telling the same stories. So hearing his viewpoint on the same situation, hearing his perspective on something that was told by somebody else, it's a really interesting look at somebody's perspective of themselves, their perspective of their life, their lives and the impact that they've made. It's really a good reminder for me that the stories we tell, if you've never had a chance to listen to someone tell a story about you, do that sometime, because it will surprise you what people tell about you. And I mean that in a positive way.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for people to read this one, but it's not just that. This whole yearbook is, I've been proofing like crazy, and there are some really, it always is, but Mike Babcock's story on Barrett Ruud is really great. Another in-state player, Jacob Padilla's story on a recent Husker Hoops Mania event, which is all thanks to NIL, is really fun and very people are going to very much enjoy it. But Greg Smith spoke about running backs coach Brian Applewhite. Steve Marek, he did a feature on cornerback Quentin Newsome. Drake Keeler, who has been an intern with Hale Varsity the last year, wrote an essay on what his collegiate experience has been like with football always seemingly centering his collegiate experience always centering around football and Memorial Stadium. It's really smart. It's really interesting. And for those who go, well, I grew up in the glory days of Nebraska football, it's a really, really interesting perspective of what it's like now to be a student at Nebraska centering around this thing that has not been the glory days version it once was. So there's a lot of good stuff in there, and I'm getting really
excited.
I'm so excited. I don't know. I always get really it's just this moment of anticipation where I start to get really eager for people to see it. But then I had a dream last night that Mike Babcock, which he would never do this, but while editing my story, which has already been done and edited and is now in the fine tuning, little edit piece of it, completely changed my story.
Yeah.
And that I woke up this morning with anxiety. I was like, what was wrong with it? And he would never do that to me, but my anxiety was I can just tell where I'm at in this right now.
Right. Yeah. No, I dream a lot about work actually, so I totally understand. Yeah. That feeling.
It was very overwhelming in my I was like I said, I woke up and was like, Mike would never do that. He would never just I something without talking with me. But at the same time, I was like, what was wrong with it? But I think, okay, obviously I'm speaking for others, but I do want to I will speak at least directly for myself because I shared this on Instagram stories. This is okay, I would say this is a humble brag, but there's nothing humble about it. I'm being a total look at me, I'm amazing type of person right now. But I have a little caveat to this. I have had the last 4 yearbook covers. The story I've written has had the last 4 yearbook covers. And I'm very proud of that. That makes me as a writer and a journalist feel really good. But none of that would be possible without those 4 individuals, which just happen to be Adrian Martinez, DiCaprio Boodle, Ben Stilley, and now Garrett Nelson, trusting me with those stories. If they didn't trust me to tell those stories and didn't trust our Hill Varsity staff to put them and position them in the best light possible on those covers, it wouldn't happen. But I shared that cover. I shared all 4 covers on Instagram stories and just said, this is really neat for me. And it's just an honor to have told these stories. Yeah. And I heard from all 4 of them, and to hear from Adrian and tell me what that experience was for me to follow him around for a day. And then he really enjoyed the photo shoot we did. Yeah. And then same thing where, DiCaprio, he's one where someday, maybe his little brother who's committed to Nebraska, maybe he can be on the cover of the magazine and we can bring DiCaprio back. Because he's the one that never got a true photo shoot because of COVID. We had to use an image from the year prior, which was still a great image. It was from a photo shoot that we did. It was still a really cool photo of him, but I still would have loved to have given him that experience. But he still had, he was just the most gracious again. And Ben Stilley, who is just Ben is not someone who loves attention. He just kind of puts his head down and gets to work. And even he was so kind and gracious about just kind of reminiscing on that. And I remember that day, him, letting us go into his high school weight room so that we could film him in an environment that was special to him. And just his mom, who worked across the street, she, followed us, came along for some of it as we were going to his old high school football field. And I don't know, the thing that I will always say is, no, I'm not trying to write puff pieces about people. Right. There are things that I said this in the last episode. I remember writing in the feature about Ben, about his participation in Black Lives Matter and wanting to step up for his teammates and fellow athletes who needed that allyship. And, that doesn't, there are people who get pretty I don't know why, but they get pretty upset by that. And so it's but I'm not going to shy away from that kind of stuff if it's what needs to be told. Why would you? It then takes away from who he is. It takes away from that story. But I always view these yearbook features as a deep understanding of the individual, just
Yeah.
like any story we write, really, honestly. But like these yearbook stories are, I hope that you walk away from it feeling like you understand that individual a little bit differently than maybe you did before.
Yeah.
And have it remind you that they're people.
I think that's the coolest part. There are many cool parts of the yearbook, and of the individuals that end up being on the cover. But I think that, we mentioned this last week, but humanizing athletes for the things that they are off of whatever court field they may be playing on is super important. And I always look forward to them. I remember National Letter of Intent Day forever ago.
Like this national letter NLI
Yeah.
and NIL, those two things just
Yes.
super, could not have thought of a better way to like just make those two things hard to like.
I know, but I remember I was still at the World Herald at the time when we had him on the show, and the thoughtfulness that he had in his answers and just how excited you could tell he was about everything and anything. Like, it was one of my favorite. I know that this is not surprising to anybody who knows who I am, but covering recruiting is not my favorite thing on earth. It's really difficult usually to get a hold of people. They're 17, 18-year-old kids still, so getting them to actually open up, talk about their experience can be difficult sometimes, but he was just amazing. He's probably my favorite person we ever had the opportunity to talk to, and we talked to him a few times.
He is somebody where I'm glad you said that, because God bless Greg being a recruiting person, because recruiting is tough.
Yeah.
I got to know Garrett a little bit through his recruiting process, because that year, by the way, like for people who are listening, I left Hale Varsity for 1 year. It was in the 2017 into 2018, and that would have been kind of right over that cusp of those 2018, 2019 classes, where like that would have been the time where I was doing more recruiting. And so like I got to know these classes a little bit better than like I traditionally would have. So I remember thinking from the get-go, Garrett is somebody that needs a story told about him at some point, but just need to wait for that right timing. And for me, the timing was right now. And here's the thing: he has 2 years of eligibility left. He could come back, but I do think, and this is not insider information, this is just my personal opinion, I think if he has the season that I think many of us expect him to have, regardless of Nebraska's outcome, the NFL is going to come knocking much sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I really truly believe that. Again, this is entirely I don't think it depends on Nebraska. I think it depends entirely on what he does.
Yeah.
And so getting this opportunity to tell the story, to cap no longer in Nebraska, but having captured him in that moment, it kind of is like you're always looking for this moment of capturing lightning in a bottle. And I feel that way of all of these covers. Like, Mick Stoltenberg, when he was on the cover, it was this moment of when Nebraska was transitioning from a 4-3 defense into a 3-4, and he was having to learn an entirely different position group or entirely different position. Like it's still the same concept on a defensive line, but you're going from a 1 gap to a 2 gap, and he was not in Dominican Sue size. So like have to take that on was a big challenge. But you think of like the covers of Tommy Armstrong, who, by the way, just became a dad yesterday. So congratulations to Tommy and his wife. They welcomed a beautiful baby boy. And it seems from what we have heard, all are doing well. And these are where it's like, here's who he was right at this moment. And someday he'll be able to show this son that he just had, look at this moment. Look who I was then. Look who I am now. And that's what these yearbook stories can be, is like they're just clippings of, it's honestly fitting that we call it a yearbook, because it is a moment in time that captures these individuals, who they are today, with the potential of who they could be tomorrow and in the future. But anyway, you need to subscribe. So
do it.
Head to halevarsity.com/subscribe. But like I said, head to any of our social media platforms and you can actually grab the yearbook one that has the promo code, everything. I think you can use the code yearbook at checkout if you go to halevarsity.com/subscribe, and that will actually take the discount off. But again, if you want to just be sure, go to any of our social platforms and you'll find that link. But otherwise, we're so excited. This is going to be off to print very soon. Feel free to reach out to any of us. Mind Your Own Podcast at hailvarsity.com. I'm at Erin Sorensen. Sasha's at Sasha72. Wish her happy birthday. Get on Twitter and wish her happy birthday. Otherwise, we will not, like I said, we will not be back with a new episode this upcoming week, but we will that week after.
Yes. Yep.
So, and actually, I haven't even told Sasha this. I think we'll have a guest that week after, and I'm pretty excited about it. It's not Garrett, but maybe someday Garrett. But this guest is still pretty cool.
I'm excited. I can't wait for you to tell me after we end this episode.
I meant to tell you sooner, but I do think you're going to really like the idea, and I do think people are going to really like this person as well.
Super excited.
So anyway.
Happy birthday to me. That's my birthday gift.
This is your gift. I found a guest. But yes, go tweet at Sasha, Sasha72 on Twitter. Let her know happy birthday. Sasha, as always, I appreciate you. You're the best. We will be back with more, not next week, but the week after.
Yes.
Go be kind.
You. Have a good little vacation. And yes, please go be kind to each other out there.
And subscribe to Hurrdat Media.
Yes.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.